Well, welcome everybody. On Sunday the 6th of April, James Pettigrew was leading worship at Ardnamurchan at Kilchoan. And I thought it'd be a nice idea to have a wee chat with him online so that others around the other communities can hear something about Mission Aviation Fellowship. We're recording this on Friday morning, but I won't publish it until after the Sunday morning service. So, welcome to you, James. You've arrived up in beautiful Ardnamurchan.
Yeah, it was a absolutely beautiful journey. In fact, I was just reflecting with my wife. It's 40 years since I started coming up to Ardnamurchan when I met my wife. She's a Cameron, and if you know Hughie and Bridget Cameron, my father-in-law was Hughie's older brother. And so lots of connections to the area, and we always love coming up. And it's a real privilege and pleasure to get to speak to the people in Kilchoan and through this to some of the other people around the peninsula.
Fantastic. So, tell me, how long have you been involved with Mission Aviation Fellowship?
Actually, relatively recently, my wife and I, up until August last year, were pastoring an English-speaking church on the shores of Lake Geneva, halfway between Lausanne and Geneva, in a little place called Neon. And we'd been there for 6 years, had a lovely little house up in the Jura Mountains. But we came back and moved to near Dunfermline in August, and I began working for MAF. But I've known about MAF and had sort of personal connections with them for a long time.
So, tell us a wee bit about the work of MAF.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a good time to talk about it because you might have seen a little bit about us on the front of newspapers or on the TV. There was a very striking picture of someone dressed kind of Papua New Guinea and the king commissioning a new aircraft. That's because it's actually our 80th anniversary. And if your maths is any good, you probably already realise that means we started at the end of the war. And effectively, we started in the rubble of the Second World War. There were two RAF officers, one a pilot, one an engineer, Stuart King and Jack Hemmings. And they'd seen the aircraft to be used to around devastation, take away life. But Jack in particular had been out in India and flown Dakotas to keep very isolated groups of troops resupplied and also to bring in medical aid, but to fly out the wounded. And of course, they had realised that that kind of Isaiah 2:4 thing about spears into plowshares, that God could use things that were intended for war and redirect them in his kingdom to instead bring about peace and sustain life and save life. So that was their mission. And they got a very rickety old plane, flew out to Africa, flew around northern, eastern parts of Africa, looking to see if this would be possible, and eventually flew into a mountain. Lucky to escape their lives, but came back. Mission Aviation Fellowship got off the ground, and today uh, I'll pass a slide on that will give you our latest stats, but I mean, just a little glimpse. We have about 116 aircraft. We fly to 1,000 destinations. We work with about 1,500 different organizations. But really, the heart of what we do is taking God's love in practical ways to some of the most isolated communities in the world, where there's no access, or no practical access, either because of the geography, lack of infrastructure, or sometimes because of conflict. At the moment in Sudan, we are reaching some communities there who are cut off because of the civil war there. So that's a little glimpse of what the organisation's doing, and completely funded essentially by God's people around the world. But the UK is the biggest contributor to that.
All right. So you mentioned South Sudan there. Where else would be current places where MAF is
Yeah, I mean,
working?
our single biggest area is Papua New Guinea, and you can imagine the difficulties there, jungle, rivers, mountains, and no roads. I mean, to give you a little glimpse of the impact that we can make there, fairly recently, a woman gave birth to twins in a very remote area, couldn't get to a clinic because the bridge had been swept away. Even if she could have walked, it would have been 5 to 7 days to the hospital. We were able eventually to get in and fly her to the hospital within 15 to 20 minutes. The tragedy is, though, that one of those twins died with sepsis. It's very common there. And so, obviously, what we also want to do and try and do in those areas is fly in medical supplies and doctors so that we can set up clinics in those areas. So the Medivac thing is a big thing for us. We're very involved in that. We operate in Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, Liberia, places like that. It was interesting. I was up in Skye last weekend talking to them about a really interesting project in the Sessi Islands. So the Sessi Islands are a group of islands in Lake Victoria in the middle of Africa, more of a sea really than a lake. But these islands, again, it can take 12 hours to travel to the mainland in a canoe, and people often drown. There's problems. There is one, I think, surgeon in the whole of the 86 islands. There's difficulties getting between them, and doctors and other professionals are reluctant to go out because of the safety record of essentially dugout canoes with outboard motors. And so we've actually got a float plane, and we've got it, it's getting repainted in our colours. And then we have to train some personnel, and hopefully it will go out next year. And then again, you're talking, instead of 12 hours on an open canoe, 20 minutes for us to do that. And I think the folk in Skye really got it, because I think maybe same here as well. I think when you live in a more remote community, isolated community, you've got a better understanding of just those problems that come along with it. And so they've really got on board and are going to help us finance part of that project.
Right, fantastic. So if folk around here are wanting to find out more about MAF or thinking about ways in which they can support the work, how could they do that?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. I'll leave some leaflets in the church there in Kilchoan. We'll also send you the link to the website. There are a couple of specific things. We would love you to pray for us. We often say that we are more fueled by prayer than by aviation fuel. You can imagine where we fly physically, and sometimes because of security things, it's a dangerous occupation. We have a great safety record, and we don't think that's unconnected to who we fly for. But we'd love to keep you up to date with that, and I can send how people can sign up to do for that, to do that. Go. We I heard an incredible statistic recently that with all the infrastructure we have, the planes and everything else, if all of our current vacancies were filled, we could do 60% more. And so people think that we're looking for pilots and engineers, but actually we also need things like IT people and human resources people, and believe it or not, teachers. Two of our projects are in danger of being scaled back significantly because we can't get a teacher to the schools, which will mean the missionaries will have to take their families out and we'll need to scale back. So that the other thing that we are really looking for, if anybody would fancy being a volunteer speaker for us in the West Highlands, love you to get in contact with me. We'd give you all the training, and that would be a great help to us. And finally, of course, giving as well. You could go onto the website and see some of those ideas. We have general expenses, but we've got some specific things that are up at the moment. We have a malaria campaign. I was shocked to discover that a child dies of malaria every single minute in Africa. And although we don't have a vaccination yet, the tragedy is it's preventable, largely with mosquito nets and some other things, and also treatable if it's caught early enough. And so we've got malaria packs that we fly into very remote areas, the mosquito nets, but also medical teams to help. And that's a specific project at the moment. Or there's even a project, if you have a look on our website or on social media, about we provide Bibles to very remote communities. We work with a lot of translation missionary agencies, and then we provide Bibles both physically and actually increasingly. It's almost like a little MP3 player, which is solar powered, so that people who can't read but can still hear God's word in their language. So you could support us by praying, going, giving. And finally, if you are a young person and you're looking for a career in aviation, either as a pilot or as an engineer, and you've got an active Christian faith, we offer 2 scholarships every year, fully funded for both of those things. And we're really excited because the very first pilot who's come through that scholarship has just flown solo and beginning his career. So if you fancy yourself as a missionary pilot or engineer, and the engineer one, we've left open this year. We haven't had enough qualified candidates. Get in touch with us through the website. We'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. That's been really interesting to hear a bit about the work of MAF. Incredible, the behind the scenes work for so many partners that you work with. You mentioned 1,500 different
1,500
partner organisations.
Yeah, people often don't know of our names, sadly, but they know of our work. If you remember that incredible little piece that Michael Burke did about the Ethiopian famine that kicked off Live Aid, which is 40 years ago. It was actually MAF that flew him in. Right. And there was a recent interview between him and the MAF pilot who was already flying in supplies. So although people maybe aren't aware of our name, they probably are aware of our work. And at the moment, we are one of actually the first groups to be able to fly into Myanmar just to do some kind of reconnaissance work for some other agencies. And it's because we often work in these very remote, isolated areas anyway, that we will be the first people able to survey what's happened, what's needed, and fly people in.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, thinking about the aftermath of the earthquake in Myanmar, and we hear about Christian Aid and other organisations, but I had been thinking, I'm sure math is
Yeah.
there in the background. So good to hear of that. James, thank you so much for giving of your time. I'll let you enjoy the rest of this fantastic weather
Oh,
these
it's great.
days here on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. Thank you. And we'll finish off with a wee video with some overview of the work of math.
That's great, and thank you for the privilege and the pleasure of coming and speaking. And as I say, just pop onto our website or social media, and you can find any information you want. Thanks again.
We'll leave all the links down in the description below.
Do that.
Many thanks indeed, James. Every
Thank you,
blessing
Donald.
to you. Thank you.